Hi, welcome everyone. Welcome to today's session on MBA versus EMBA. Which one is right for you? We are joined by our program advisors, Mr. Johnny Liang for GMBA and Mr. Marc Nerva for the EMBA program. Over to you, Marc and Johnny.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us on this. This is a topic that we've covered actually a few times in a few different MBA fairs and sessions, but I think it's still a really important one. The reason why we do this topic is because Johnny and I both speak with lots of candidates, and one of the things we notice is that we recognize from the patterns in their questions that there are concerns and certain confusion between these two programs. So what we're trying to do today is just give those of you who are potentially looking at an MBA or an EMBA, just a little bit more clarity on what the differences between the two are, what the similarities are, and to really try and help you guys determine which one is best for you. So this is helpful for MBA or EMBA candidates, regardless of whether you're deciding ESSEC or not. And it's a good way. We also feel that this is a good way for you guys to get to know us a bit better. Okay. There are a couple of caveats that I'm going to make for this presentation, or this webinar rather. The first thing is that we are going to use examples from our programs because we feel that this helps with giving you context. So if we say something along the lines of admissions requirements, we'll give you a bit of examples so that we can see what the differences are. And also the second thing is that these are the views from our school. Now, other schools may have different viewpoints, and these are really unique to ESSEC. Many of them are going to be the same, but there will be certain differences. Johnny, do you want to give a quick intro?
Yeah, thanks, Marc. So my name is Johnny. Welcome to join our sessions. So I'm an MBA recruiter cover for APAC region, and my colleague Marc is the take up the EMBA recruitments. So we always met candidates have these classical questions. So which program should I apply for, MBA or EMBA? So for today's session, we cover a lot of things in terms of program structure, in terms of the resources, in terms of the ROI, and also most important, which is the intro requirement for the two different programs. We will give you the best picture to understand which program is suitable for you.
Great. Thanks very much. And so, as Johnny mentioned, these are some of the things that we're going through. So very specifically, we're going to look at EMBA and MBA programs from the following 5 views. The first we're going to look at is the typical kinds of candidates that each program is looking for, but also the typical kind of profiles of candidates who join our programs. The second thing we will look at are the admissions requirements for each program. We will also look at how the programs are delivered, and this is an important thing, that distinguishes both programs. We will also look at the diversity and networking factors within these two programs, as well as the fees, and as Johnny mentioned, the return on investment. So the first thing to say before we go into these 5 points is, let's answer one question. Is an EMBA an MBA qualification, right? The short answer to this is that whether you do an MBA program or whether you do an EMBA program, both programs will lead you to an MBA degree. Okay, the difference in the two programs is just how they are delivered, and because of the way they are structured, therefore the profiles of candidates will be different, the admissions requirements, the delivery, the diversity and networking, and fees and return on investment. All these things will differ slightly. Okay, so just having said that, the EMBA is not a superior form of the MBA; it's just different. So let's get right into this, and Johnny's going to take you through some of the candidate profile features for the MBA program.
Okay, thanks, Marc. We're talking about the Global MBA program first. So when you're looking at the MBA programs, you should ask yourself some questions. Based on your profile, then you will definitely know which program is suitable for you. Okay, so talking about the ESSEC Global MBA program, you can looking at what is the profile looks like, and when you're looking at the MBA class profile from ESSEC, we are looking at the people age range from 25 to 34, and the average age of the class profile, which is 30 years old, with the 6 years working experience. So if your age range is between 25 to 34, and you have a probably 3 to 5, 6 years working experience, the best program for you is the Global MBA. And also you can looking at the live part of the slides, which is our admission requirements. So which is when you submit the applications, your age must 25 above. That's why the MBA program is designed for younger managers. It's not suitable for fresh graduates. You must have a certain years of working experience, but not so much. If too much, they will move to the next level of the program, which is the EMBA. Marc will later on explain to you. And you need to have at least 3 years working experience. If you have a certain leadership role, it's better, but it's not necessary. And also, we are prefer candidates have working in the international elements. So either you have a study overseas or you work with the MNC company with the international element, you are definitely benefit for your application. And you need to have a bachelor degree. This is a compulsory for Global MBA program, which is a full-time MBA program. And you need to have a GMA and GI score. For ESSEC MBA program, we are looking at the people, looking at the candidates have a GMAT 600 above, and the average GMAT for this class is a 650. And the last requirement is about your English certification language level testing requirements, which is if you never study in bachelor in English, you need to provide IELTS or TOEFL. The minimum requirement is 6.5. So this is the requirements for MBA program, and also you will see from there what is the MBA class profile looks like.
Okay, great. So that's what the MBA class profile looks like. Now, for the typical EMBA candidate, of course, this is a little different. So first and foremost, would you say the average age for the MBA is about 29, 30 years old?
Yeah, 30 years old.
Yeah, 30 years old. So comparatively, the EMBA class profile, the average age is about 39 years old, and the average amount of working years our candidates tend to have is about 14 to 15 years, thereabouts. So because of that, the job levels that they'll come in at are usually mid-senior to senior executives. Now, they would have a minimum of 8 years of experience, but as I mentioned, the average would be about 15 years. They will also have a minimum of 3 years of managerial experience. So when we say managerial experience, we're not just talking about people management or team management, but we're also talking about project management. Now, for the EMBA profile, because they're a little bit more mature, because they're a little bit further along in their careers, and they've also got families. So the view there is a little different to say the Global MBA program. There is a bit of a window of overlap. We usually take in candidates who are about 31 at the very youngest, but they go up to say the late 40s and early 50s. The typical EMBA candidate is looking for a few things that are similar to MBA candidates as well. Career advancement is obviously a big thing. People want to have better salaries, better compensation, as well as they're still looking for employment opportunities. Now, it depends. Some of them have their own businesses. Some of them are in senior management within their firms. Some of them are earmarked to progress to senior management with their own firms, and therefore they may not be looking elsewhere for jobs, but there are still candidates that do. One of the critical things is that they're looking for better business education. And if you watch the other session that happened earlier this afternoon, one of our alumni who's just graduating right now actually said that when he came into the program, he wanted to find out what his blind spots were, right? So this plus some of the feedback that we've gotten from GMBA students as well was that these courses really help to build their business acumen. Okay, and that relates to critical thinking and decision-making skills as well. Okay, so moving on from there, that's a brief sort of summary of the candidate profiles. We're going to talk about requirements, and Johnny has touched on some of the requirements for the GMBA as well. Did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, just add on some points on this admission requirements, so which is already mentioned in the beginning. So this is also the starting point when you look at MBA programs. And just add on for ESSEC MBA programs, our program is very diversity. So our candidates is coming from more than 20 nationalities. And most of our GMBA candidates can speak more than 3 or 4 languages. So they have either stay or study or work in a different nationality or different region and countries, which is we are really welcome candidates with this international exposure. So if you have this such good experience, used to study, work live in the different countries, you can speak more than 3, 4 languages, ESSEC MBA is really welcome to you for apply. Yeah, so this is just on, and the basic requirements for Global MBA program, which is you can see from here. Mention again, age 25 above, 3 years work experience. And if you have a work with international elements, you need to have a bachelor degree, plus good GMAT and GRE score. Yeah, that's all.
What would you say a good figure for the GMAT score?
Yeah, GMAT score, the wage score is a 650, but anyone above 600, they will have a chance to shortlist. But of course, the final assessment is the overall assessment, which is not only looking at the GMAT, also looking at your GPA, your career objectives, your motivation, and your future plans as well. Yeah.
Perfect. So for the EMBA, as we mentioned, we require a minimum of 8 to 10 years of work experience. As I said, we will look at this. The average is about 15 though. And as I mentioned again, our candidates would have about 3 to 5 years in some sort of managerial role. We also require a good academic degree from a reputable institution. Just to note that this particular program for the EMBA that we are speaking about is the ESSEC and Mannheim Executive MBA Asia Pacific. This is a joint degree program, a joint EMBA program between ESSEC Business School and Mannheim Business School in Germany. And Mannheim Business School is widely regarded as the top business school in Germany. So we do have additional steps in place because there are candidates who have a wealth of experience and expertise. But maybe in their younger days, they did not have the opportunity to complete their bachelor's degrees. There is an additional step for individuals who fall into this sort of profile. But that's something that we will need to speak about in greater detail if you find yourself being in that position. We also look at the track record of your academic as well as your career history. And that really is the most important thing for us. That is how we base the eligibility of candidates more than anything else. And it is also a reason why for the Executive MBA, we don't require a GMAT or GRE score. Having said that, if we've had conversations with you multiple times, it would probably mean that you're fluent in English, which is absolutely an important thing as well, because all these programs are conducted in English, your applications are all in English, and there are essay questions and stuff to write that require you to be able to express yourself clearly. So those are just some of the basic requirements. Again, for the MBA with their requirements, for the EMBA with our requirements, the best course of action for anyone, whether or not you decide to eventually join us, is have a chat with us. That's what Johnny and I are here for. We're here to help you answer your questions and clarify the road ahead with regard to your applications and eventually whether you do the program with us or not. Okay? So this is a really huge point, program delivery. This is by far the thing that distinguishes two programs the most. And Johnny's going to take you through a little bit about how the GMBA program runs.
Yeah, also this is a major difference between Global MBA and the EMBA program. The delivery mode is different. So for Global MBA program, it's a 1-year full-time programs, which you can see from here, which is a 12 months full-time MBA. And every year we only have a 1 intake on September, but we have a 5 round of the admission process. So which is the application usually start in the previous year September and finish and end by the current year June, and the program start on September. So this program is teaching English. Even this is a French business school, and we are available for this program in both campus, which is Singapore and France. French language is not compulsory, but just for your information, if you want to work in Paris after you complete a program, you better speak French language. But of course, during the 1-year program, we will teach you French language as one of the option subjects. But it's not good enough. So in the long run, if you really want to work in Paris or in France, you should start your French language study immediately. And also you have a stay from here. So these programs are available in 2 campuses, France and Singapore. France is definitely our main campuses. We have altogether for all the program have more than 7,000 students studying there. And the Singapore campus, we have yearly 1,000 students study here. So which is a one program, have a 2 region focus, will definitely help you for your future career plans. And also we have a 3 months capstone project attaching this 12 months program. which is a 9 months for academic study, and plus this 3 months capstone project. Capstone project can be the different ways. Depends on the company, also depends on the track you study. So we have a luxury brand management, we have a digital leadership track. So for luxury brand management, it's more like an internships, which company requests you to work as a management trainee in certain companies for 3 months. And after that, if your performance is good, and if you also like your internship companies, you probably will change to a full-time staff. And but if you take the digital leadership track, depends on the company. So some of the consulting firms or some of the technology company will request you to do the custom project. Can be an individual, can be a group assessment. So it really depends. And also within the programs, they have a 3 to 5 countries business trips. And for luxury brand management, you will definitely visit Italy, New York, and Shanghai, which is the center of the luxury and fashion. And also for digital leadership track, you will visit Amsterdam, Luxembourg in Europe, and in Singapore, in APAC, you will visit also Indonesia or Singapore nearby countries. And also within the program, you will have more than 30 companies experience. So they have a different model. So either they have a leadership talks where we invite those company leaders to give a speech to our students, or either we will arrange alumni sharing sessions and also the alumni panel discussion as well. So this is a GMBA programs highlight. Just now I have mentioned we have a two tracks focus. The first one is which is a strategy digital leadership. So this track is more like a general management and have a digital transformation focus. So this program is available in both France and Singapore. The reason being is that we believe digital transformation will be an industry future. Will apply for all the industries, doesn't matter finance or education or engineering. So the digital transformation, especially after COVID-19, is impact a lot of industries, and we can see this is the future of the market. And for the another tracks we are running, which is the luxury brand management, ESSEC running these tracks continuable for 25 years, and we have a deeply collaboration with those top French luxury brands like LVMH, like L'Oreal, like Hermes. So talking about the luxury MBA, ESSEC is really the top business school offering these programs. Yeah. Okay, so this is the two major and the two focus from Global MBA program, which is a full-time model. And also I have mentioned, so they have a business trips, including for the program. Also, they have a one-to-one mentorship program. So which is we are getting the alumni from the past few cohorts and come to set up the buddy system with the current participants. They are probably from the same industry which you are targeting or same company which you are targeting to work in future. So they will getting you becomes your mentor, getting you and give you the helps to helping you to groom yourself to learn the new skills, knowledge, and the industry understandings to prepare you for the future careers. And in the last also, we have a lot of professional talks. I have mentioned we have invite a lot of business leaders, the top alumni sharing sessions to helping you to understand the real business, how the operations and how the market trends going on, which is helping you to change your job function and either move to a new industry as well. Yeah, I think this is for GMBA highlights, and we move to the EMBA part.
Okay, so as Johnny mentioned, the GMBA has a lot of content to it. It's quite meaty because it's a full-time program. For EMBA participants or EMBA candidates, again, being a bit more senior, being a bit older, and having families to take care of, and but possibly being in more senior positions. One of the reasons why EMBA programs from any good school are modular or part-time, if you want to call it that, is because a lot of our candidates, majority of them cannot afford the opportunity costs that come with quitting your job for a year, and how it might affect not just their careers, but their families as well. So our program, again, like any of the major schools, we're a modular program that runs 15 months. So our intake is again once a year, and our intake is in October, and it runs to December of the following year. So for the 2021 intake, we'll start in October of 2021, and that cohort will run till December of 2022. So our classes, although they are part-time, we run as blocks of 6 full days from Monday to Saturday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. And this is done 10 times on campus in Singapore. There are 2 weeks where we go overseas. So one of the weeks is done at Mannheim Business School in Germany, our partner business school in this. And the other one is done in Waseda University in Japan. The last part of a big piece of this program is the Entrepreneurship, Innovation, and Sustainability Project. That's been renamed actually. So one of the things that Johnny would also tell you is that whether it's the Global MBA program or whether it's the Executive MBA program, ESSEC tends to focus on a few pretty niche things. One of them has to do with digital transformation. The other one has to do with innovation. And we also look at things like corporate social responsibility and sustainability a lot in our programs. So the Entrepreneurship Project has been renamed the Entrepreneurship, Innovation, and Sustainability Project because the professor who is in charge of that rationalized that not everyone wants to be an entrepreneur and that they may have projects regarding innovation and digital transformation or sustainability that are also important to them. So these are just a few points, but I'm going to show you what a sample calendar looks like. So this is the proposed calendar for the upcoming intake in 2021. As you can see, it's not a full-time program. So the weeks that are highlighted in red are the weeks that are done in Singapore. The weeks that are highlighted in dark blue are the 2 one-week residencies. So the plan is for June 2022 to be in Mannheim and November 2022 to be in Waseda University in Japan. There is also an online portion to this program, which runs after the Mannheim week. These are not live classes. It's an e-learning package that Mannheim Business School delivers. And I'd be happy to share more details with you about that. There are a couple of things to note here. Well, the first and the most important thing is that no EMBA program or no school can cater to all schedules. And this is important to know because even though ours is a part-time modular program, this schedule may not agree with all of you. But then again, if you're looking at the other good schools in Singapore, there are 5 of us. If you'd like to know who the 5 are, please come and have a chat with me. And if you're looking at Asia as well, each of the good schools, the schedules are going to be very, very different. The one thing I will say is that the average number of days that all the good business schools have in class would be about between 60 to 80 days. So about, roughly on average about 70 days. And that's something that you still need to be prepared for because it still takes quite a bit of time away from work. But it's robust, it's interesting, and if you speak with any of our alumni, they'll tell you the same thing as well. Okay, so that's a little bit of the difference between the MBA program, the EMBA program, the full-time versus part-time views on that. The next thing we're going to move into is in diversity and networking.
Okay, so diversity and networking is very important for any of our MBA programs because when you learn from the MBA programs, not only learn from the lecture, not only learn from the classroom, you also learn from your peers, which is your classmates. So that's why most of the top business schools, especially for either MBA program, we are looking at the diversity profile. So our students coming from more than 21 nationalities, they all have a very unique background, unique experience. They will definitely give you a different experience when you study with them together. So, and some of them will probably become your business partner in the future. Okay, so before we're talking about the diversity and networking, so we need to understand why people looking for MBA program, why they need an MBA program. So, which is the MBA program is a program to helping you to easily change your job location, change job function, and move to a new industry. So based on our past record, 64% of the participants able to change location. So they move to one place to another place to study. After that, they probably will stay in the country to work. So 64%, which is the 2 of 3 of the candidates able to change new location to have a new job. And the 61% of the people able to change job function. So probably they are still in the same industries, but they are totally change the job levels. So probably before the program, they are doing sales or marketing executive job. After that, but they can promote as a manager level, or they are doing the strategic planning jobs. And most important, 80% of the people able to change industry. So there have a lot of people from IT or engineering background. After a few years work experience, they decide to take an MBA, but after that, they're able to switch themselves to consulting firms, or they can move to the technology firms. Yeah, so this is the reason why people look at MBA program rather than a specialist master. So MBA programs are more focused on the soft skills trainings, and is the best program help people to change location, change job function, and move to new industries. Okay, and here are the 5 reasons why you should think about ESSEC Global MBA program. The first reason, this is the one program have a 2 countries experience, which is France and Singapore. Within 1 year, you will definitely study in the 2 locations. You will go through the 2 different experience and cultures. And also the MBA program, our MBA program is more focused on soft skills training and providing you the hands-on particular experience. So which is this is something different with the master program. It's still focused on academic study, but it's no longer concentrate on that. It's more concentrate like how you understand the real business operation, your networking with the real business network, and how you how we immerse yourself to the new industries. And also the third reason is we have a mission for both GMBA program and EMBA program. We are focused on sustainability, digital transformation, and entrepreneurships. And all these 3 topics become very popular in the future job market. And if you have a certain ability under these 3 portions, you will definitely become popular in the job market as well. And the 4th reason is we're always talking about diversity. So for our Global MBA program, the candidates that are coming from more than 21 nationalities with a really different, unique background and experience, which is also will reach your experience when you study with the ESSEC Global MBA program. And the last reason you should think about it, this is one MBA program, but they have a 2 focus, which is the strategy digital leadership and also the luxury brand management. So some of the resources are sharing for both tracks. So for example, if even you study digital leadership track, but you also can enjoy the alumni or networking for the luxury brand management. And also the same, if you study a luxury brand management, you also can attend the track, attend the class or business leader talks through digital leadership track. And so this is a benefit for you when you study a Global MBA program with us. You will definitely have a different kind of experience as well. Okay, so as I summarize, Global MBA program is immerse yourself into the new industry to prepare yourself for a new job and new locations. So this is the majority and the focus for our ESSEC Global MBA program. Okay, so we can move to the EMBA, talking about diversity and networking.
Yeah, so Johnny covered quite a few good points also on why you were doing MBA. I will cover that a little later on when we talk about things like return on investment. But for now, as we speak about diversity and networking within our program, so this is where we're a little similar in the 2 programs, but we're also different. One of the things to note is that in the Global MBA program, because it's a full-time program, it's immersive, and your ability to build bonds with your classmates is obviously a lot more pronounced. For the Executive MBA program, this is always going to be a challenge for 2 reasons. Number one, because the program is part-time, you don't get to see your fellow participants or your classmates all the time. Now, one thing to note is that the average size of EMBA classrooms for most schools is around about 60 to 70 people. For ESSEC, we keep our class sizes small for a couple of reasons. So just to note that our cohorts tend to be around 20 people. And the reason why we keep them small is for a few reasons. Number one, we believe it gives you better access to your professors. If you're in a classroom of 60 people, logically speaking, you're going to have less face-to-face time and less ability to ask your professor's questions, just because of the lack of time. Number two, if you're in a big class, it's also questionable how well you get to know each and every one of your fellow participants. For us, what we can almost guarantee you is that as you go through this program, you will have the opportunity to work with each and every one of your fellow participants at least once in a group setting. And that, helps with building better and stronger bonds. So there's a toss-up here. However, the third important reason is that when we go to Mannheim for the residency and when we go to Waseda, these residencies are not only done with the Singapore cohort. So this is the ESSEC and Mannheim Executive MBA Asia Pacific. The ESSEC and Mannheim Executive MBA in Europe runs in Paris and Germany. And when we go to Mannheim and when we go to Japan, we do the classes there together with the cohorts from Paris and from Mannheim, and this adds to a greater level of exposure of views, of diverse views by linking up. So it's a bit of a hybrid model. We have smaller classes to build stronger bonds, but we also allow for greater exposure to diverse views. And that's one of the highlights of the MBA. But coming back to, even though we are a small cohort, we are incredibly diverse as well. This is a snapshot of what the 2019 intake looked like. As you can see, we've had people from about 10 different nationalities there. The 2020 intake was no different. We had individuals from Turkey, from South America as well. So being in Singapore allows us to have really good access to a wide variety of people from all over the world. And this has always held true. The other thing to say is that our programs, on average through the years, I would say have about 38 to 40% of female representation, which we are incredibly proud of. And there are some years where it's near 50% as well, but as I said, it's 40% on average. And when we look at all these individuals, and yes, they come from various countries. This is an idea, a snapshot of what that cohort looked like in terms of the industries and roles. So we had everyone from, we had people who were in banking, finance and markets, engineering of different sorts, data analytics, dentistry, logistics, supply chain. We regularly get people from the legal profession for some reason. But again, this profile is going to change with every cohort because it's not something that you can fully control. There are years where we have people from telecommunications, from aircraft engineering as well. So it's really, really diverse, and we count ourselves very lucky for the 2020 intake. We also have the poster children of biotech startups in Singapore in our cohorts as well. If you'd like to know who they are, again, come and have a chat with me and I'll fill you in on that. Okay. So yeah, really, really good diversity and networking there, not just from the Singapore cohort, but also when we go overseas to the residencies. So moving on there, we're going to come to one of the final portions, but also a really big portion. Time, the schedule is important, but of course, fees, the money part of this is always going to be an important thing for any candidate, whether they're from the MBA or EMBA, just because it is a significant amount of money that you're looking to possibly invest in these programs. So, Johnny, do you want to chat us through some of the finances for the GMBA?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. So we're talking about the Global MBA program first. So, which is ROI is very important for MBA program. You want to know how much you invoice and how fast you can get money back. So we're talking about the Global MBA program first, which you can see from here. They have 2 tracks. Luxury brand management is all studied in France. Capstone project also done in France. And the strategic digital leadership have all options in France or Singapore. So for this track, it's very flexible. You can start from France, move to Singapore later on, then back to France. And you can start from Singapore, move to France, then back to Singapore again. Depends on your future career plans, where you want to have a capstone project and where you want to have a job placement and career, so on. And also you can take the one program intake in the one campus. You can do the whole program in Singapore or in France. So talking about the fees, which is your investment, for this current year, 2021 intake, it cost you 46,000 euros in Paris campus, in France campus. And convert to Singapore dollars, which is 75,400, if you decide to choose to study the program in Singapore. So this is a cost originally priced and a cost for you invest for MBA program. But of course, we are giving a scholarship up to 25 to 30%, depends on your profile. So for MBA program, they have a multi-scholarship which you can apply, depends on your when you submit the application, which is a different round of the application. They have an early bird, early action scholarship. Based on your nationality and your profile, they have a diversity scholarship. And based on your work experience, they have leadership or women in leadership scholarship, and they have a new business trend scholarship, depends on industry. And it depends on your GMAT, we have a high quotation scholarship. So which is, depends on your profile, you can apply for multi scholarship together. And also, you can see from here, just now I have mentioned they have an early bird and early action scholarship, depends on when you submit the application. So usually, when you submit the application in the early round 1 to round 3, you're able to get this scholarship. So talking about admission round, so I have mentioned this in the very earlier. Every year we have a 4 to 5 round of application admission round. So for this current year, September intake, we started application last year, September. And now we already finished round 3, round 1 to round 3. And the round 4 is closed by actually tomorrow, Paris time by end of tomorrow. And we have another round by 20th of June. So if you want to catch up for this September intake, you should start to prepare application as soon as possible. Everything is submitted online. So you just simply go to website, create an account, prepare your documents, prepare your IC, prepare your all the test course like GMAT, GIE, or IELTS, TOEFL score, then you can do the submissions. Okay, so when you understand about the invoicement, now we're talking about the ROI. So they have a lot of calculators. Very, very interesting tools developed by different organizations. So talking about how the ROI looks like for MBA program. So we take example from QS MBA ROI calculator, and also we list on the website here. If you are interested, you can just go to Google, search QS MBA ROI calculator, then you can play by yourself. It's a very interesting tool. So they will take consideration about your current location, your job function, your job position, and your current salaries. And you can pick up the programs you want to study in the next few years. Either is one of them, definitely, and you also can choose other schools to do the compare. So we take the sample for if you choose either MBA program. So they are taking the data from QS ranking, MBA ranking 2021, which is you can see from here, our graduate starting salary is about 100K US dollars. So they will come out, they will do the calculation, come up with this figure. So which you can see with the yellow line, if you don't take any MBA program, how's your salary increase? And with the blue line is if you take MBA program, how's your salary increase? Which is, you can see the difference actually 6 months later. And the big, huge difference, which is happening in 5 years. And if you're talking about the long run, within 20 years difference, in terms of the salary income difference, they have a more than millions difference. So that's why we always think MBA is a long run of investment. You're not really able to see the ROI or you see the return on investment immediately upon your graduation. But you give yourself sometimes 3 months, 6 months times, you will really see the difference. And if you're looking at the future, 5 years, 10 years later, they have a definitely huge difference in your whole life. So that's why we always recommend that people, you should think about MBA program when you achieve certain age and certain levels. And of course, for EMBA, it's the same. So for EMBA, they have another type of the ROI. We will get Marc to explain to you.
Yeah, so so this is a really good tool to use, as Johnny mentioned, for the Global MBA program. What I'm going to show you is a little bit more basic, but it speaks to a lot of the points that Johnny made in terms of, how you calculate it, and it also depends on, when things sort of pick up for you, and it's not going to be the same for everybody. But but just to look at this, right, before we go into the ROI for EMBA, as Johnny was talking about what the fees and application process for the GMBA looks like, this is what it looks like for the EMBA. So you'll notice that the fees for EMBA programs tend to be higher than GMBA programs because, first and foremost, the schools recognize that GMBA participants they are taking a year out of work, and again, that leads to opportunity costs. But the value of what you get out of the EMBA program also allows the schools to also price it higher because you have more access to more senior people, and also when we go overseas and things like that, a lot of the stuff that comes with that is also covered, and therefore that's why these programs are priced higher. For the application process, the first step is to have a chat with me, for example, if you're looking at the EMBA program, and also with the academic director of the program. There is an online application portal, and for my candidates, what I do for them is once we've had the introductory conversation to determine if the program is a fit for them, and if they are a fit for the program as well, then I send them comprehensive info on what's needed. It lists out all the documents that you need to prepare. You don't need to prepare a GMAT, as we mentioned earlier, but the online application process also has essays that need to be written, and these essays can be quite robust. This process, if you do not have your documents in place, can take a fairly long time. But if you do have your documents in place, it can be actually very, very quick. I think for both programs, one of the, apart from things like GMAT, one of the things that is the most important to do is make sure that you have your degree certificates as well as your transcripts. And if you don't have them on hand, yes, some of us have not been to school for a long time, and we don't have these things. You need to write to your universities to get your alma maters to get this, and that may take a little bit of time. Okay, so going from the introductory conversation with the academic director to the online application, once your application has been processed and all the documents are in, then you would attend your academic jury, which consists of the academic director plus one other professor who teaches on the program, and they make the ultimate decision on who is accepted into the program. So our fees stand at 94,000 Singapore dollars inclusive of GST. It actually makes us the most price competitive of any of the good schools in Singapore, as well as in Asia. And it's not because we want to be the cheapest, but because if you look at, our program is entirely tied to the program in Europe, as I mentioned before, and we cannot stray too far from their pricing. And if you look at the three major regions of the world where MBAs and EMBAs are done, these are in North America, Europe, and Asia. And in Europe, we tend to have, more price competitive programs as opposed to the other two regions. So that's why we are priced where we are. Having said that, it's still a significant amount of money, and there are, discounts and scholarships that are available. So the first mover and early bird scholarships are time sensitive. The early bird is still available. If any of you are interested to apply for it, that's $6,000. There's special scholarships available for MBA fairs and events, which we call fast fare reductions, and that's still available. For example, if you have joined us on this event, whether you're watching this now or whether you come and speak with us later, for the EMBA program, that's an additional $10,000 off. If you're a Singaporean citizen, the Singaporean scholarships of 5,000 each are still available. You would have to apply for that and write an essay for it as well. And then finally, we have diversity scholarships, which again are really important to us because our program banks a lot on the diversity of our cohorts, and these are in the magnitude of $3,000 to $7,000. What I do for all my candidates is that I work with them very, very closely to help them get as much out of this as possible and to make it worth their while and to get the most out of it. But if we're looking at return on investment, and let's say we don't talk about scholarships at all, let's just take a look at how we might calculate this. And this is and also an introductory ROI cost in finance. So if we look at the basics of ROI, ROI is calculated as current value of investment minus the cost of investment divided by the cost of investment. Sounds very technical. Some of you may know this already, but when we look at that from an EMBA perspective, and even from the MBA perspective as well, what we really are looking at is this. So how long will it take to recover the cost of my investment, meaning the cost of the program, right? So basically, we take the cost of the program and we divide it by the difference between your expected salary versus your current salary, so that difference. And if we take this and we use some data that we have on hand, as well as from credible sources like the Financial Times, for example, the Executive MBA rankings, our program fees, as I mentioned, are 94,000 Singapore dollars. That's roughly about 70,000 US dollars. Our pre-program salary, which we've corroborated with the Financial Times as well, is about, our candidates average about 120,000 US dollars. Now, the average salary increase that our participants experience after the program is about 65%. So that would put our post-program salary at about 198,000 US dollars. These are averages. If we take a post-program salary of 198,000 compared to 120,000, and if we divide the cost of the program over that, our candidates should experience return on investment in only less than 11 months. The global average is about a year and a half or so. And that's it. That's the basics of how you calculate ROI. So if there's nothing more to say to that, but Johnny brought up a few good and important points, which causes us to wonder if that really is it. There are actually a lot more things that you need to consider when you're talking about ROI. And here are some of the multiple additional factors. The first thing is your interest on loans. If some of you may be able to finance your programs by yourselves, some of you may have to take loans, and if you do, then you would have to take those interest rates into consideration as well. That's going to extend the length of the ROI, or the time to recovery. Again, we mentioned scholarships and discounts as we did. So when you have that can also help to reduce your ROI. Travel and accommodation. So for those of you who live in Singapore, obviously you're going to have less of a challenge with this, but we do have many participants who also come in from around the region. And when they come in, they have to factor their travel and accommodation into the consideration for ROI. Okay. Now, when it comes to expected versus current salary, averages don't tell the whole story. So that those numbers are averages. Your situation, you may be starting from a lower starting point, or you might be starting from a higher starting point, and that also affects your salary growth projections, right? Data differs from source to source. The Financial Times will tell you one thing. We have our own data as well. QS will tell you something else. And the Economist will also tell you something else. So data differs, so you need to sort of factor these things. You don't really need to take it and try and do calculations with it, but just bear in mind that, just as I said, averages don't tell the story, the data also differs from point to point. As you mentioned, each candidate is unique. Your starting points are different. Your time considerations are different. You might be on sabbatical. You might, not be rushing to get back into a job, or you might already be in a job and you might be earmarked for promotion immediately after you get your EMBA. So, as Johnny mentioned, when we look at these calculations, right? Yes, the ideal scenario is graduate today, tomorrow you get a new position, you get a new role, you get a new job, and your salary grows. But it doesn't always happen that way. A lot of the time, we're looking at also gaps of 3 to 6 months, or maybe even to 3 years. And then after that, 5 years, how does that grow as well? Okay. So as I mentioned, starting points, your objectives may be different, and your potential for growth, I just mentioned that, and your timelines are different as well. Okay. So these are some of the multiple additional factors that we need to think about. Obviously, this is an organic experience, and there are lots of different things to take note of as well. The best point I would say, or the best thing you can do, is come and have a chat with either of us. And we'll help you to clarify your thoughts around this as well. So, why would you do what are the real values and benefits of doing the ESSEC and Mannheim Executive Asia Pacific? Again, if you had watched the previous session earlier this afternoon, a lot of our participants and our alumni talked about lessons being immediately applicable to your work or business. And these are through the structure and rigor of well-planned activities. A lot of these things are also going to throw you a curveball. Sometimes you might not expect it, you might not think it's important, but a lot of our participants go through these activities and realize, wow, that was actually really insightful. Okay. As we mentioned as well, we have highly diversified cohorts to provide exposure to a wide array of views, not just from the Singapore cohort, but also from the cohorts in Paris and Mannheim. For the GMBA or for the EMBA, one of the consensus of our participants, again, is that our programs help to build solid business acumen. It sets solid foundations and also while accelerating learning, expanding views, forging relationships, as I mentioned. And Johnny mentioned them also, accelerating your growth and accelerating your learning. I always make the statements in all the webinars I do, and the school is probably going to hate me for it, but I will say that nobody in the whole world needs to do an MBA or an EMBA. You can learn everything in these programs on your own outside. The reason why people do these programs is because it accelerates your learning. By having your peers in class, as Johnny mentioned, you learn from your fellow participants, from your fellow classmates. That is a huge and important thing. From having your professors with the years and the amount of effort that they put into studying and becoming specialists in their fields, these things combine and accelerate your learning and allow you to grow faster. Yes, you can learn everything in these programs on your own, but how long will it take you to do that through your own reading and through experience versus what these programs can actually do for you? So one of the other points about ESSEC Business School, as I mentioned earlier, is our progressive views and the inclusion and focus on topics and individuals from outside the traditional business realm. So we're talking about things like, as mentioned previously, digital transformation, sustainability, innovation, and not just finance and leadership and stuff like that. And all these leads to a future-proofing of jobs, careers, and business. Whether you are an entrepreneur or whether you are looking to rise within your own firms. Okay. And the last point for the ROI, as I mentioned before, is we are definitely the most cost-effective program out there in the market right now. Okay. So that's it for the two programs. I know there is a lot of detail to go through and there's a lot of detail to try and make sense of. Again, I would encourage each and every one of you, whether you are sure of what you want to do, whether you're unsure, come and have a chat with Johnny if you're looking to do the GMBA program. Come and have a chat with me if you're looking to do the EMBA program. And we'd be happy to try and help make things clear for you as much as possible. Okay, I think we've got about 5 to 8 minutes left on this. So what we'd like to do is open the floor to questions. Do you know how we can get to that?
Probably Alia can help us.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, so feel free to fill up your question in the chat box. We are happy to answer your questions now.
Thank you so much, Johnny and Mark. Really amazing information session sharing. We did receive one question from JL about IELTS and TOEIC. If you want to share more information about it, Johnny, please feel free to do so.
He's talking about the GMAT and the IELTS, right?
Yes.
Okay, for the Global MBA program, we request GMAT and IELTS or TOEFL. So for GMAT, the minimum requirement is 600. Equivalent to GRE is around 315. And of course, we understood stuff from last year, the COVID-19. So probably some of the candidates are unable to take the offline test. So we are accepting the online test as well. And for TOEFL, IELTS is the same, offline, both offline and online tests we are accepting. And for IELTS, English requirement is 615. And for TOEFL, is equivalent to 90 score. So this is the requirements for Global MBA program. And I want to add on something here. So I used to have candidates ask me the questions, okay, for looking at the EMBA program, they have no GMAT requirements. This means EMBA is more easier than GMBA to get into? So I give the answer first. Actually, it's not. So as we always talking about Global MBA and Executive MBA is still MBA program. It's just a difference in terms of the delivery model and study model. So that's why for Global MBA, for younger managers, we are using the different methods to test your ability and whether you are eligible for this program. So that's why the GMAT or GRE, TOEFL, and IELTS in that place. When you're working until certain years and achieve certain levels, we are recognize your working experience rather than the GMAT or GRE, this kind of the standard test. So that's why you cannot see EMB is easier than Global MBA, but actually for EMB, they have more things we are looking at. Yeah, probably Marc can hit on more on this part.
You hit it right. You hit the nail right on the head with that. So as Johnny mentioned, when we don't require, or for our school in particular, we don't require a GMAT or GRE score because we look at the strength of your profile. Yes, you can have 10, let's say you have 10 to 12 years of working experience. Let's say you're about 32, 33 years of age. And if you want to do the EMBA program, the most important thing we still look for is the strength of your career. Your career has to demonstrate a certain logic to your progression. Some people's careers are different, right? You start off one industry, maybe you move to another industry or another function or role. But if there is a clear and definable reason for that to happen, and then a clear and definable path as to how you use that to build your career, great. But even if you have the minimum requirements, if your profile doesn't satisfy the stakeholders who are involved, like the academic director, the other professors who are on the jury, as well as just bear in mind that the EMBA is also the candidates' applications are looked at by the French Ministry of Higher Education. They are also looked at by Mannheim Business School. Right here in Asia, the professors that deal with the admissions here are the gatekeepers, but your applications are monitored and scrutinized by multiple people. So it is quite robust.
Yeah, so which is a different assessment, but that means EMB is easier than GMB or GMB is more easier than EMB.
Correct. Yeah. Ali, do you have any other questions?
We have a question from Renee from Beijing, China. So for EMBA, is it necessary for you to have a job or can be free? So maybe, Renee, you can add more information about it. Maybe, is it mandatory for a person to have a job for EMBA?
Right. The answer is no. I mean, if you have the resources to do it, and if again, as I said, if your profile fits, then there is no reason for us to reject you. You do not need to have a job, but you do need to have, as I said, the required amount of experience, and you need to have that quality as a candidate. We have had participants who have taken sabbaticals. There was a lady in the cohort that is just graduating now. Because her husband had a job change, so they moved from Germany to Singapore. She was from the US, and she used to work for SAP. And she decided to take a sabbatical to make sure that her family settled properly in Singapore. But looking ahead to when she was ready to go back to the workforce and potentially also climb through it, she decided to take the EMBA. Had a very stellar CV, and we couldn't say no. So we wouldn't judge you just based on the fact that you don't have a job, but we would ask you for the reasons around that as well, just to make sure that we know where you're at and whether you would then be a fit for the program and whether the program would be a fit for you.
Yeah, also the full-time job is not really compulsory as one of the requirements. So we used to have EMB candidates be entrepreneurs. So very young age, 31 or 32. He's already become an entrepreneur more than 10 years. So we were still accepting her for EMB. Actually, she have a very good profile. So that's why I mentioned for EMB, we are looking at the overall profile rather than a standard test. Yeah. So which is whether you have a good job, full-time job, or part-time job, it doesn't matter. You can just send in the profile, let us to speak to you and assess your profile and give you the advice.
Yeah. Maybe we'll take one more, Liang.
Yes. Is there any, we are open for one last question. If not, please feel free. We have shared Johnny and Marc's email contact details on the chat function. Yes, and also we are showing it on the screen. Please feel free to visit our chat rooms for EMBA and GMBA as well, and join our next session. Our next session is on job prospects for postgrad holders, what lies ahead. It's going to be moderated by Larry Medina, Head of Career Services, Alumni and Corporate Relations. Larry will be joined by our EMBA alumni. Just simply click on the login link that we shared earlier as well on the chat function.
Okay, great. Everyone, thanks for joining us on this. Leah, thanks for supporting this as always. Again, I would really encourage you to come and speak with us, whether you're sure or not, because it's free and you will get the best information to help you make a clearer decision on what your next steps are. We look forward to speaking with you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. So it's our job to helping you to identify which profile, which program is best for you. So thanks for joining our today's session. Yeah, have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.